NFL Top 10 heading into week number 9 of the NFL season. Ladies and gentlemen, every single week we do a fluid Top 10 where we upgrade, downgrade teams depending on their performance. We do it every week, and now we have the new Top 10 official for each and every one of you here on a Wednesday. Last week, this was the Top 10. Chiefs, Lions, Ravens, Bills, Vikings, Packers, Steelers, Seahawks, 49ers, and Texans. And now, boom, the new Top 10. A lot of moving and shaking. Chiefs, Lions stay at 1-2. They have been far and away the most impressive teams. Bills at 3. Ravens fall to 4 after their loss to the mythological figure that is Jameis Winston. Steelers jump up from 7 to 5. Minnesota slides on their loss. Green Bay slides on their win. Controversial, but we'll get to that. San Francisco 8. Washington enters the top 10 at 9. And Houston at 10. Okay, so obviously KC, obviously Detroit. I think Detroit's the best team in the NFL right now. And KC's undefeated. So what are you going to do? Buffalo 3, they get a big win. Baltimore loses, so they fall. Right now, Josh Allen's your MVP. He is playing at an insane level, and the way that Buffalo works, if Josh Allen's playing at an MVP level, Buffalo is going to be really, really good. James Cook is also having a nice season, had a great game last game. Baltimore, really good team, but they just kind of shot themselves in the foot. Jameis Winston threw about 6 balls that should have been intercepted. Didn't happen, and they got beat. So it is what it is. I think Baltimore will be fine. They traded for Deontay Johnson today. Not that he's a huge needle mover, but the Ravens are nasty. The Ravens are certainly one of the 2 best teams in the AFC, or one of the 3 best teams in the AFC. The Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens are far and away, I think, the teams to beat there. Steelers jump up to 5. I mean, what a team. Like, we got to spend a second talking about the Steelers. I thought this was a bang average team with an average / overrated coach and a quarterback who was cooked and another quarterback who can't play. Unbelievable the job that Mike Tomlin has done, pulling the strings on who to start, when to start them, when to play Fields, when to play Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson looks like prime Russell Wilson. He is absolutely dealing the last 2 games. Just incredible. And I tell you what, there's a lot of people right now who owe an apology to Arthur Smith because he is getting the most out of this offense. I mean, he got the most out of Justin Fields. He's getting the most out of Russell Wilson. He's getting the most out of George Pickens. He's getting the most out of Najee Harris. And the defense is nasty too. If we look at DVOA, so this is defensive DVOA, the Steelers are the let's see. They are the 11th overall defense. If it's weighted, doesn't change. Pass defense, the Steelers are 11. Rush defense, the Steelers are 7. So just an overall damn good team there. If we do total DVOA, by the way, see how different their ranking is than mine. It goes Detroit, Baltimore, Minnesota, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Houston, Green Bay, Washington, and Pittsburgh. Do we have the same 10 teams? I think we do. We have Detroit, we have Baltimore, we have Minnesota, we have Kansas City, we have Buffalo, we have San Francisco, we have Houston, we have Green Bay, we have Washington. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay, different order, but at least we got the teams right. But Pittsburgh right now, like, they're not only a playoff team, they're a real contender. That defense is absolutely nasty, and if Russell Wilson is playing at this level, you do not want to face Pittsburgh in the playoffs. You do not want to go to Pittsburgh and play. I mean, this is a good team. This is a good team. I'm really impressed with Pittsburgh. Minnesota, tough game against the resurgent Rams. The Rams went from, hey, we're selling to, hey, we're back in this thing. The Rams could win the NFC West. I mean, the Niners kind of still have life, obviously, after their performance this weekend. But the Rams are there. The Rams are absolutely still in this thing. That's going to be a fun race at the end there. Matt Stafford, if he has his weapons, which he does now, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp look perfectly fine. The Rams are going to be a good team. They would definitely be in my kind of honorable mention there. But the reason that the Packers dropped, so if you look at the Packers game, I always grade box scores after the week. The Packers, Fugazi win. If you look at yards per play, 6.3 yards per play to 7. Gave up 7 yards per play against a bad Jacksonville team who had multiple injuries, who coming back from London, don't take a week off, go straight into this game, and you allow 7 yards per play to this team? Crazy town. So Green Bay, Did they deserve to win the game? Maybe, but overall, not a great performance. Not a performance that I would give A plus, good stuff, worth an upgrade. And Jordan Love tweaked his knee, so I think it's okay to downgrade them. 2-7-8 San Francisco. So last week we were talking about like, hey, if San Francisco's this hurt, like what are you supposed to do? Deebo Samuel comes back, George Kittle's playing, and they absolutely dominate the Cowboys. So they should be a top 10 team. They are a top 10 team. Are they as powerful as usual? No. Is San Francisco in the same ballpark as Kansas City, Detroit, Buffalo? No, they're not. They're a lower tier good team, a lower tier good tiered team. Washington, welcome to the top 10. Last week we held them out of the top 10 because of Jaden Daniels' injury. I thought he would not play, and then boom, injury reports are questionable in the NFL nowadays, but Jaden Daniels is good to go, and he has got Washington into a legitimate team. Now, the reason they're in the top 10, obviously Jaden Daniels is a big part of it, but if you go to the defensive DVOA, I have a sneaky feeling if you went to the beginning of the year, Washington would have been close to 32. They're 24th right now, which I think is damning to how they were earlier in the year, and they were bad. But as of late, Dan Quinn does have this defense playing a little bit better. Number 20 in pass defense and number 24 in rush defense. And I have a feeling that's just going to continue to climb. So they have, are they a good defensive team? No. But if they have a quarterback playing at this level and they can somehow find a way for Dan Quinn to keep elevating that defense into a top 15-ish area, Washington's legit. Washington is legit. They believe they can win. The Hail Mary against Chicago, that's the kind of win that can galvanize a team, that can make a team believe they got something special. And damn it, maybe they do got something special. And then top 10, or rounding out the top 10, is Houston. A deserved win against Indy, but not very impressed. They desperately need their receivers back. And that's not good news because Stephon Diggs today torn ACL. So they've got to get Nico Collins back, and Joe Mixon is kind of dragging this team right now. But that is your top 10. We're kind of rounding out like the real, and real quick, like the Eagles would be my 11. It probably would go Eagles, Broncos, Rams, Falcons, Seahawks, Chargers. Probably that's the order I would go with the honorable mentions. And then the rest of the teams are all just kind of whatever. But we're rounding into that part of the season where you can kind of tell like who is a pretender, who is elite, who is flavor of the month. And I would say we know elite will be in the playoffs, will be making noise, conference championship or bust is the KCs, the Detroits, the Buffaloes, the Baltimores. I would say those teams are that level. Like we have a clear-cut top 4. Now the problem is 3 of those 4 play in the AFC with Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore. So who is the second best team in the NFC? Is it the Vikings? I don't know about that. The Vikings, they're good, but are they the second best team? I don't know. Green Bay? I don't know. San Francisco? You would think so because of the pedigree, but no McCaffrey, no Ayuk. Like, they've looked vulnerable at times. They're good, but there's no clear-cut team. You could argue Philly. You could argue Philly is the second-best team in the NFC. So the NFC is a bit more in flux than the AFC. I feel very confident saying the Chiefs, the Bills, or the Chiefs, the Bills, or the Ravens will be in the AFC title game. Like 2 out of those 3 teams. I feel very confident. I cannot say that with the NFC. I can say I'm confident the Lions, because the Lions are really, really good. But the rest of the NFC is kind of in flux. But it's a really interesting season because these 10 teams are good. Washington, anytime you have a team that goes from 32nd or whatever we thought they were, 30th before the season, to all of a sudden they're top 10, you wonder if there will be some regression. But I feel pretty confident that these teams are going to stick. That these 10, certainly if we go down to like these 11, I think these teams will stick. And again, if we look at DVOA real quick, we go through it again. Defensively, Minnesota number 1, Houston, Detroit, KC, Denver, San Francisco, Buffalo, Chargers, Tennessee, and Chicago. Pass defense, we've got Minnesota, San Francisco, Houston, Detroit, Denver, your top 5. Rush defense, Minnesota, KC, Buffalo, Houston, Baltimore, your top 5. It's always interesting to see with defenses, who last year, like let's look at last year. So last year, this will be a fun little exercise. So last year, your top defenses, Baltimore, Cleveland, the Jets, Dallas are 3 of your 5. Okay, Cleveland, the Jets, and Dallas. 1 year later, with very little roster turnover, and look how much it changes. Where are the Jets? The Jets are 20th. Where is Dallas? Dallas is 29th. Where is Cleveland? Cleveland is 17th. Like, very rarely do you see offenses do that. Offense has a little more, like, year to year kind of is what it is. Like, let's look at last year. Last year, barring an injury, like, obviously Miami is 2 here, but Tua gets hurt. Like, obviously they're not going to be 2. Barring an injury, look at this. Your top offenses last year. And you could even argue San Francisco to an extent with Christian McCaffrey. But you got Buffalo, you got Baltimore, you got Detroit, you got Green Bay, you got the Rams, right? And then if you go to this year, let's see, it's going to be mostly the same, right? Green Bay, Detroit, Buffalo, Baltimore, San Francisco, even with all the injuries, are 7. So defense is always the side of the ball where when people are like, oh, well, Cleveland's good, they've got a good defense. It's like, be careful about that. Defense is not afraid to fall off on a year-per-year basis. Offense is much more sticky. A good offense is much more likely to be a good offense year over year as long as the same roster is there. Whereas defense, even the same roster can kind of fall off. We've seen it with defensive players of the year, where like Stephon Gilmore, boom, defensive player of the year. 2 years later, he's released. All right, very rarely is the offensive player of the year released a year or 2 years later, unless, of course, there's an injury. But there you go, top 10. Feel really good about this list. Chiefs, Lions, Bills, Ravens, Steelers, Vikings, Packers, 49ers, Commanders, Texans. By the way, I do have a Super Bowl ticket on the Detroit Lions at I think it's 14-1, 15-1, something like that. And I have a Jared Goff MVP ticket at 25-1 or 30-1, one of those two. So really rooting hard for the Lions. College football, I have a Heisman ticket on Travis Hunter at 23-1. So rooting really hard for Travis Hunter to win the Heisman and the Lions to win the Super Bowl with Jared Goff winning an MVP. That would be real good for the boy. Really, really good. Also have some other futures. Kansas City and Philly to win their divisions. I have a couple other things out there, some unique combinations. I have like KC and Philly with like Leeds, the soccer team to win their division. I've got some other stuff tied in there. But if the Lions win the Super Bowl and Jared Goff wins MVP and Travis Hunter wins the Heisman, it'd be a hell of a football season for your boy. But get on down in the comments below. Let me know your top 10. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.